Today we'll be discussing core competence and competitive advantage. Core competence and competitive advantage are two major terms discussed in strategic management. And many times marketing department will also require these two fundamental terms to understand the marketing strategy. So competitive advantage is a strength of a company. As the term is self-defining, competitive advantage, it is that quality of organization which gives us added advantage in the market. But most important thing in competitive advantage is that it may not remain as a competitive advantage forever. Competitors will always try to gain it. Competitors will always try to imitate it, and there are chances competitors may make it. In that case, the competitive advantage doesn't remain a long-term benefit or strength. Core competence is that quality or that kind of strength you have created in the market in a long-term basis. And this is not easy for your competitor to copy. I'll be discussing few companies which you all know, and you have to identify what is the core competence of these companies. Dell, the core competence, supply chain. Walmart, it is discounting retailing. Toyota, it is quality improvement programs. Zara, it is integrated vertical structure. And Unilever, it is distribution channel. Think about Sony. Sony's core competence is capability to miniature. They can produce things which are very small in size, and they have done it. You think about Sony's Walkman, it is a miniature version. Talk about Philips, its core competence is optical media expertise. Think about Honda, its core competence is making engines. Canon, its core competence is optics, imaging, and microprocessing. The attributes of core competence are: core competence will always provide an access to varieties of products and services. If you have a core competence, you will definitely get this advantage in moving other products or other segments. Core competence will give you a new way to look at the market, and probably because this strength you have, which is a long-term strength, and probably people cannot copy this strength, you have an added advantage of working in different markets. Many companies try to explore this particular idea and try to shift from one segment to other segments also. They experiment. Companies having core competence are actually having a better advantage in the market. Core competence is going to contribute significantly to different customer benefits. Companies having core competence may identify additional customer relationship attributes. Companies having a core competence may also identify a different customer experience and may be able to satisfy them. This gives them additional advantage in the market. Core competence is exclusive to a company. That's why company can provide different kinds of products and different kind of services. The exclusivity in the market will be an added advantage for the company. Core competence is a technological competence. In that sense, organization will try to impose a different kind of a marketability scheme. Sometimes core competence can be knowledge oriented core competence. In that case, organization will try to adapt a new kind of business model. Core competence can be an essential for a firm to pursue a different kind of a product modification and innovation. Sometimes organization having a core competence may try to experiment a product in a different kind of uses or user friendly scenario. In this case, we can say that organizations having core competence have added advantage, and most of the time in marketing, organizations having core competence are one step ahead of the marketing activities. Their marketing mix is basically gets a lot of support from their core competence. The product they launch, the pricing strategies, the way they promote in the market, and their distribution or the channel always support them. Organizations having a core competence are actually organizations of experiences. Let's try to understand how this core competence is different from competitive advantage. Competitive advantage doesn't imply core competence, but core competence imply competitive advantage. What is your competitive advantage today may or may not remain your competitive advantage tomorrow. But what is your core competence? That is your competitive advantage also. Competitive advantage doesn't constitute a sure success formula of a firm in a long term. But core competence does constitute a sure success formula of a firm in a long term. The sure success formula means competitive advantage may be copied by the competitors. At the same time, core competence cannot be copied by the competitors. Competitive advantage provides a temporary competitive advantage. This temporary competitive advantage can be very short term also, maybe few days also. In case of a technology oriented product, your competitor might copy you next day. But core competence provides you a long lasting superiority in the market. And it is visible that many companies having core competence has invested a lot of time, effort, and also money to gain it. Competitive advantage talks about an organization's functional strength. As it is part of functional strength, we discuss it part of any organization's part, policy, or maybe any organization's division. But core competence is applicable to all the functions of organization. It doesn't limit to any function or any division or any functionality of the organization. Competitive advantage helps the firm in specific and limited way, but core competence helps the firm in a general, multifaceted and far-reaching way. It means that the competitive advantage may not give you success or some kind of benefit in all kind of fields, but core competence will give you in every field. Competitive advantage gives strength in a given business, in a given scenario, but core competence is a strength that gives you in a variety of business. Competitive advantage can easily imitable and your competitors can catch you. But at the same time, the core competence is a long lasting attribute and competitors cannot catch it. Competitive advantage is not unique in any form, but core competence is unique. The examples I have forwarded can also be found in a different perspective. You can add your own examples and you can tell me which is the company you find having a competitive advantage today in a particular sector, and in that sector which are the companies are having a core competence and what are the benefit the organization is getting